I tell you what, if you do want to criticize Dan Campbell again, like at this point, you're going to lose the football game. But, dude, here's what you don't do. Lucas, you're like...
Call timeout?
No, you don't run the ball.
Right.
You do not, under any circumstances, run the ball. Because if you don't get in, you have to use a timeout or the clock is going to run below the play clock level, and either way, you can score all you want and you dead unless you get an onside kick. Which what are the analytics of an onside kick?
Less than 10%.
Yeah, about 5.
It's a no from us, dog.
So second and 1 from the 1, minute 10 to go, Goff pass, incomplete to the right.
You got to throw again.
3rd and 1 from the 1, Montgomery right guard loses 2.
Yep.
Timeout, Detroit.
That was the one. That ended it right there.
Yeah.
And then they threw it in for a touchdown.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, you'd be better off going
kicking
incomplete on 3rd and goal and kicking the field goal.
Right.
And having a minute 10 left on the clock and a chance to get the ball back and throw it into the end zone than doing what he did.
Exactly.
So, look, I get that hindsight is so 20/20.
It's also 50-50.
But Dan Campbell mismanaged this game a bunch of times.
Right.
A bunch of times.
And you've talked a lot about process versus result, and his process has always been 4th down. If it's manageable, we're going to go for it. We're biting kneecaps and the whole thing. So that's been his process. The result,
bite a kneecap off.
Yeah, the result didn't work out for him, but that's his process, and I don't agree with the process. You and I've had these conversations about analytics and whatnot, and I also think that when you get in these games and these spots, you also have to take into account the human beings and what that does to your team.
Yes.
And this is what Lowe was speaking to in the crossover. When you go for it in these spots and you don't get it, the damage that does to your team's confidence, I think, is far worse than the benefit of going for it.
Well, it's so interesting, the conversation to me about process versus result, because while I can be a process person, I don't think that means inflexibility. So in other words, you can't just use the same process every single time, no matter what. That makes you a robot. We don't need a coach. We do not need a coach. If you're just going to do the same thing every time, guys, we got it from here. Hey, so if it's 4th down and less than 5, we're going for it. We don't need a coach. Go have a coffee.
Those days are coming, by the way, with AI and all that.
Seriously. So you got to read the room. And to me, that's this situation. Not all 4th and 3s are built the same. And if you're sitting there, you're out of 24-7 first half, you're the Lions. You're on the road. You guys have never been there before. They don't know what this feels like. You do, quite frankly, a great job in the second half. You stop the 49ers from scoring a touchdown. You hold them to a field goal. Then you go right down the other way. You have a chance to match them 3 for 3, which does nothing but erases the first 2/3 of the third quarter for the 49ers. But no, it's 4th and 3. Time to bite a kneecap. Okay, go bite a kneecap. Don't miss.
Yeah.
Because if you miss, you are seeding doubt into all of your players. And to me, that was the moment. That's the one I'm going to forever remember, because as I told you, I sort of look at what an opposing coach should do based on my emotions in that moment, and I wanted him to go for it.
I've never heard it broken down like that, but I think you're right. I think that might be maybe the smartest thing you've ever said, because I've never thought about it in those terms. It's really astute, though, because a lot of times I look at it and, like, my opinion changes all the time. They should go for it. Oh, you shouldn't go for it, but it's a reflection of what I want the team to not do. And in this case, I was totally with you. Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it, Dan.
That gave the Niners their best hope, and exactly what they needed to happen happened. And in fact, I would argue it's even worse the way it happened. It's one thing to not get it. Somebody flies through, makes a play. Nick Bosa was right there. If he sacks Jared Goff, okay, Nick Bosa made a play. Even worse, we threw it out to our receiver, and he got both his hands on it, and he dropped it. And now that guy, by the way, two drives later.
Dude, I'm watching it right now.
Guess what's going to happen again? We're going back to him, Coach. It's 3rd and 9. Hit him right between the numbers, and what'd he do? He dropped it again because you seeded doubt
Coach.
in this whole team. And so to me, that's just not being aware of the moment. I get the process. You got to leave your process sometimes for the moment.
Especially when you're dealing with an extremely young team, and Reynolds is a young player, and he already had that first drop, and I'm actually just looking at it right now. He's open by 3 yards.
Oh, dude.
Demo is late to break it up.
You talking about on fourth down or the one later?
I'm talking about the one later on third down.
God, that one's an even worse drop.
The third down in a tie game.
Yeah, he's going to go for a gain of 20.
He's got 3 yards of cushion. Well, it looks like he's probably going to get wrapped up after a gain of 10 or 11, but it's a first down. We're moving the chains, Coach.
Easy.
And the ball hits him right in the center of the 8, and it's a classic, like, my head's already turning because I want to make a play.
Yeah.
I want to atone for my earlier drop. So I'm taking this little in route, and I'm taking this thing 50 yards, and boop.
I looked right at our buddy Chris, and I went, they're gagging. They're gagging. This is a gag show right here on national TV. And quite frankly, I mean, you love it because you're a Niner fan, but that's not really the way you'd love to win. You know what I mean?
Well,
like you take it any way you get it.
Yes, sir.
But you'd love for your team to just be like, man, we're right? We're clowning them. We're making plays. We're all over the field. Not really. Not really. The Lions went on in a span of 5 plays. The Lions went drop, fumble, drop. And the next thing you know, from 24-10, the Niners are up 27-24. And the whole fan base, the whole organization is just got a lump in its throat. And you can't get rid of that. And you're on the road and you're going against the 1 seed.
God.
There's nothing you could do. Nothing you could do.
Drop, fumble, drop, pass breakup, which Tashawn Gibson comes in.
Yeah.
Gibson had a great game. He forced the fumble, and he broke up that pass, too, with authority.
The only safety I trust right now.
With a savage shoulder, too.
Yeah.
And much like Dre Greenlaw earlier, his hit that gave him a stinger, another shoulder. Niners did a good job of keeping the helmet out of it and not getting those senseless flags that Baltimore faced in the early game. So it's drop, fumble, drop, pass breakup, drop, and then the inability to down a punt. And I'm just looking at it. The dude kicks it 75 yards, it bounces straight up at the 3.
It was a perfect punt.
Maybe the best punt in punt history.
Seriously.
And I'm looking at Lucas right now with not 1 but 2 feet in the end zone as I got down here.
Yep.
And then you couldn't make that play. And you make that play, who knows, maybe you bottle up a run, it's a safety. And there were so many game-changing moments that the younger, less experienced road team just could not convert.
The Lions made no plays in the
second half,
18 minutes of this game.
Right?
I mean, 0 plays. They missed every chance. Bill and Marin here with Willard and Dibs. Hey, Bill, what are you doing?
Hey, guys. So the one thing I was going to say about Dan Campbell's decision-making is, the concept of doubling down in blackjack. So once he makes the first call, right, and he doesn't get it, then the theory is let's do this. The 7 points is better than 2 threes, right? So the second one I totally understand. Once you've made the first, I'm saying that's the feeling about it, because if you get the second time you just get 3, then you've got 3 over 2 chances. So I think there's a little bit of that at work, which no one's mentioned, but I think that makes sense to me.
Well, Bill,
Mark, the one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, so no, let me hear you.
No. I was just going to say I totally buy what you're saying, but it's kind of like taking a loan to pay off a loan. Do you know what I mean? Like at a certain point,
totally.
Right? It's like when you lie, and now you're lying to cover up for your lie, and you lie. Like at a certain point, dude, like here's some medicine. Eat this and get back in the game.
Yeah, I know, but at that point, I think he's honestly, he so believes in his team, and he's like, I'm going to get 7 points there. No one's going to criticize. If he gets it on the second time, everyone's saying he's a genius. So I understand the second one. And then the one thing, when you said that we don't feel good about this win, I mean, the fumble, Gibson caused that fumble. I mean, Gibson is making those plays, and I think there was a little bit of the Niners' excellent play that made. I mean, granted they choked a little bit, but they still could have won that game if Purdy doesn't come up with that incredible effort. But anyway, I was just thinking about the double downing with Campbell. He seems to me that kind of guy. He's probably been in Vegas, been down big, doubled down, and won some big bets.
Yeah, no doubt. And Bill, just to be very clear, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying Niner fans didn't feel good about the win. I'm just saying if I've got two options here, and one of them is your favorite team is out there making plays versus the team you're playing is out there completely gagging the thing away, you feel better when your team's making plays. And the Niners absolutely made some plays. Gibson, the fumble, Gibson.
Juszczyk, Jennings.
Yes, knocking it loose from Laporta.
Yeah.
Like, they made a ton of plays in the second half. And at the same time, the Lions made none.
Right.
They made none.
Well, you can't come back from 17 down unless the other team lets you at a certain point. You know,
that's true.
And they helped you with the drop on 4th and 2, and they helped you with the third down drop by Reynolds, and they helped you by not downing a punt. And they helped you by having a one-play drive that resulted in an immediate fumble from a guy who was absolutely crushing you all game, and he runs the wrong way, and the exchange is messy, and he never tucks it away, and then Gibson does make a play on the ball to get it out. But there are a bunch of the small little plays, and anytime you look at any game, when you're down 17 and there are 6 or 7 plays that could go either way, you need most of them to go your way.
You sure do. That's why Kyle Shanahan did not feel good when they had to settle for a field goal to open the second half.
Right.
He's like, our percent, that does not put us in a good spot.
Right.
That's why it was so important for the Lions to go for it on 4th down and not get it, because that sort of made up for the Niners having to settle for a field goal.
Yeah, your 3 compared to their 0 felt better than your 3 compared to their 7, certainly.
Or even 3.
Exactly.
Yeah, 3 for 3. That's a net terrible for the 49ers.
Because it would have taken 8 minutes off the clock or more. So
here is Dan Campbell, by the way, on his decisions on 4th down.
I just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back. It's easy hindsight, and I get it. I get that. But I don't regret those decisions, and that's hard. It's hard because we didn't come through. It wasn't able to work out. But I don't, and I understand the scrutiny I'll get. That's part of the gig, man. But we just didn't work out.
Yeah, I like Dan Campbell. I love that answer. Yeah, I like Dan Campbell. I think he's here for it. He can handle it. And oh, by the way, even when you do something like this. And he's right, second guessing and criticism will be there. This is where the house money thought also does come in. You are the Lions. You are new. This is year 3 for you, and you've done a phenomenal job. And so you've built up some kind of rapport with the audience, if you will, as to where this is going to be, in the end, a forgivable crime.
Right.
Unless you keep doing it again. You keep going to the playoffs and doing this every year. You know what I mean? Like you go for it in Dallas. We're going for 2. Well, now you're out at the 7-yard line. We're going for it again. Okay. You keep doing stuff like this where it's just go for it. No. Always go for it. Then your name changes from Dan Campbell to Brandon Staley. At a certain point.
Yeah, but does. You've already made it way further than Staley ever did. But in terms of...
Staley made the playoffs last year, too. And then this year couldn't even get through the year.
And Campbell was in the NFC Championship game.
And, they're not the same.
Correct. And I do think the house money notion is an interesting one, because if you ask anybody around the league about the Lions, they're more worried about the Lions next year than they probably were this year. The Lions were ahead of schedule based on all their young players and the trajectory of the organization under Dan Campbell. You mentioned Jared Goff, still young, playing his best football. You got a very young roster. The division's getting tougher now. Green Bay's good.
Yep.
And Chicago, hard to say anything good. I mean, Chicago should be better.
They're going to have unbelievable draft picks. They got all the capital in the world.
They got 2 top 10 picks.
I don't know who Minnesota's quarterback will be next year, but it'll be somebody healthy.
The division is better than we thought and continuing to get better. But if you go into the year already, Detroit's probably one of the 4 favorites in the NFC. maybe one of the two favorites.
Yeah, probably.